Hello everybody, this is TipTopMTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are going over the May 18th, 2020 Banned and Restricted announcement. So for those of you who didn't know, there's a Banned and Restricted announcement happening today focusing around Brawl, Legacy, and Vintage, and you're probably looking at the screen and can see the bans. But in case you're not, in Brawl, Drannith Magistrate and Winota are banned. Legacy, Lurrus and Zirda are banned, and in Vintage, Lurrus is banned. And so they talk about this. First off, it's effective as of today on Tabletop and Magic Online, and will be effective as of May 21st, 2020 on MTG Arena. Now, because it's not banned in Standard, I don't expect them to give out wildcards. They only do that if it gets banned in Historic or Standard. So don't expect wildcards, but I could be wrong. I don't know if we had it with Oko, but I don't believe we got wildcards for it. So just so you know. Either way, let's jump into their explanation for each format. So with Vintage, in the weeks following the release of Ikoria Layer Behemoths on Magic Online, we've observed a rise in the popularity and win rate of Vintage decks using Lurrus the Dream Den as a companion. Because of the nature of Vintage's wide card pool and powerful restricted cards, the deck building cost imposed on Lurrus is less restrictive relative to the payoff having Lurrus as a companion. As a result, the win rates of several archetypes using Lurrus has surpassed 55% in Magic Online League play, and collectively decks using Lurrus are representing too large of a portion of the metagame with no indication of a shift away from this trend. Therefore, he is banned. So basically, he is too much of the metagame and he wins too often. Companions are a lot worse in older formats because while there is a deck building restriction, there are so many more cards. Look at Standard, you have like 1,800 cards or whatever. If you have to limit yourself to half of those, for instance, with something like Garuda, who only lets you use the even cards, now you're cutting your card pool in half versus cutting, 20,000 in half. That's, or whatever the card pool of Vintage is, cutting that in half is not nearly as bad. Either way, we recognize that it's a rare occurrence to ban a card for balanced reasons rather than restrict it. So again, this is one thing I was going to mention. They are banning it, not restricting it. So it's one of the few cards in Vintage that are banned. We have like anti-cards and Charizard and stuff like that. But this is a unique case where restricting Lurrus wouldn't affect it because it's used as a companion, which is the primary motivation for making this change. So they are outright banning it because of the nature of the card. Legacy, as in Vintage, the wide card pool of powerful, low mana cost permanents in Legacy makes the power level using Lurrus as a companion not commemorate to the deck building cost. Several archetypes that were already strong, including Delver variants, have incorporated the use of Lurrus as a companion, while necessitating relatively few deck building changes. Collectively, Lurrus represents an increasingly large portion of the metagame, with several variants maintaining win rates above 55% in Magic Online League play. Matchup data indicates that metagame forces alone aren't sufficient to keep these decks in check, so we are choosing to ban him. So basically, same thing, but in Legacy. In addition, we're seeing very high win rates among Zirda decks, as in combination with Grim Monolith, which is an infinite combo. While not yet widely played, Magic Online gameplay indicates these decks would become problematic in both win rate and metagame share, therefore we're taking the additional step of banning it. So I want you to remember this. Here they're saying, hey, this isn't problematic yet. We just see that this could become problematic, so we're banning it ahead of time, which I think is probably the right move, especially in older formats where lots of things can shift because there are so many cards. Now, when they talk about other formats, I'm going to come back to this paragraph right here. Part of our philosophy for Brawl is that it shouldn't be easy for a single card to completely shut down a wide class of commanders. That is kind of wrong. A single card to shut down all commanders? Fine. Sorcerer Spyglass is their example. Drannith Magistrate is what they're banning. But what about something like Narset that shuts down any commander that their primary motivation is card draw? So you should ban Narset. But no, they're not. So that logic's a little off. I don't think banning Drannith Magistrate is a bad thing, but it's just sometimes, and I'm going to get into this at the end, I think they ban things, they obviously ban things for other reasons and then just tell us different things. Either way, or different reasons. We feel Drannith Magistrate falls into this category and generally takes away from the fun and self-expression that comes from building around a commander Brawl, so we're banning it. So basically, it allows you to shut down your opponent by making it so they can't cast their commander. On the balance side of things, we're seeing high win rates of decks using Winota as a commander, leading to increased play rates and reduced diversity. experiences for Brawl players. While we're generally more tolerant of win rate outliers in Brawl than other formats, a more competitive spirit with it. We are more tolerant of win rate outliers in Brawl than in formats with a more competitive spirit to them. We're choosing to make the change here in order to open up more viable choices for self-expression in the Brawl metagame. Honestly, I don't think Winota's, I think, a problem in Standard, but it's not that big of a deal in Brawl. I'm not saying it's not powerful, always having access to it is very good, but I feel like Kinnan, the Simic 2 cost that just ramps you a ton, that's more problematic. That's the deck I run into every other game. So, yeah, that's who should have been banned, not Winota. Either way, other formats. While this set of changes has been focused on Legacy, Vintage, and Brawl, may I mention formats with very small player bases. I play Brawl, but that's because it's on Arena. If it wasn't on Arena, I wouldn't be playing Brawl. We're continuing to watch the evolution of the metagame in each other format, including Standard, Pioneer, and Modern. If changes become needed in other formats, we'll provide those separately in a future announcement. As of now, we're seeing a diverse and dynamic metagame that changes from week to week in each Standard, Pioneer, and Modern. So they're saying that it's dynamic. What they mean by dynamic is you basically just take Lurrus and then you choose a version of Lurrus, but they're all still Lurrus, they just are slightly different, which apparently means it's dynamic. Before determining whether any changes are necessary, they want to basically see the metagame get stale. They want to wait for the metagame to solidify and say, hey, these are the best decks, and then they'll ban it. That way everyone has already purchased their Lurrus before they ban it. And then we are aware that some players are concerned about the frequency in which they encounter decks using companions across several formats. Yes, while we are not currently seeing problematic win rates using companions, we are looking at overall metagame share and potential for repetitive gameplay. If we see signs of long-term health issues, yes, resulting from high metagame share of companion decks, we are willing to take steps to including changing how the companion works, up to or including changing how the companion mechanic works. For now, the metagame needs more time to evolve before we can see whether changes are necessary. Okay, so let's break this all down. Their logic here, and remember, I said I wanted to jump back up here. They're banning this. It's not a problem yet. The, quote, metagame hasn't formed yet they're still making these 3 bans. Why? If the metagame hasn't formed and solidified, why are these being banned? Second thing, they clearly want to see all the chaos happen before they fix it, but here they are banning things ahead of time. Right here. They're saying, oh, Zerda, it isn't a problem yet, but we see it becoming a problem, or banning it. Good. That's a good attitude. Why don't they do that more? Why is it here in the formats that actually matter, we're going to let it all burn down first, but in the formats that no one plays, we're just going to ban it ahead of time? They could have easily said, hey, I would have loved if this said, hey, we're banning all companions from all formats until we find a new replacement for the mechanic. Because honestly, the rules text on the cards, they don't really tell you how to play companion. So they could easily change this. They could add a bigger downside. So I would have loved if they were just like, we're temporarily banning all companions. We'll change them. And if we find a way to change them, we'll unban them. But if not, they're just all banned. I feel like that would have been a good move. Talking about problematic, first off, what they use to ban things is very inconsistent. So here they talk about problematic win rates, but then sometimes they talk about problematic, presence in the metagame, and I get both of those are factors, but sometimes, decks will have high presence in the metagame. For instance, go to Modern, half the decks, if not more, are Lurrus. That is high prevalence in the metagame. But they're only looking at win rate there. So they choose which statistic they're looking at based on what serves them monetarily. And I know this video is going to end up being very negative, but just generally looking at it, they should have banned something from Standard here. They should have banned many things from Standard here. Standard is my primary format, and honestly, it's probably the most unhealthy I've ever seen it. This is the Oko. This is Oko 2.0. Honestly, I am very disappointed in the fact that they're only these formats. I was hoping they would see the backlash and be like, okay, maybe we actually need to change this. And honestly, in Standard, I don't know if Lurrus needs to be banned, but things like Winota or Agent of Treachery, which is in every single deck I face, those are the things that need to be banned. Either way, that's just my opinions on the matter. I think that they just need to become more consistent with why they're banning things. If you guys have any ideas or comments or thoughts on the topic, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.